Let me tell you something that might sting a little. When you pull away, most women don't panic right away. They get curious first. They want to know if you're serious or if it's just another emotional move. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment a woman realizes you've actually detached, not pretending, not waiting, but genuinely moving on with your life, that's when she starts to chase. See, no contact isn't about ignoring her. It's about shifting the balance of power. When you stop reacting, she starts feeling the absence of your attention. And that absence hits harder than any words could. Women are emotional creatures. But we're also strategic when it comes to attraction. When a man disappears without chasing, a part of her instinct kicks in. Wait, did I lose him? That's the point most men never reach because they break the silence too soon. They text, they post things just to get noticed. They try to remind her what she's missing. But when you do that, you remind her that she still has control. She knows you're still emotionally available. And women don't chase what's available. So if you want her to chase you after no contact, it's not about mind games. It's about emotional contrast. It's about making her feel the difference between your presence and your absence. Because when a woman feels that loss, her emotions take over logic. She'll start wondering what you're doing, who you're with, and why she's no longer the center of your attention. In this video, I'm going to show you what really makes a woman chase a man after no contact. Not tricks, not manipulation, but pure female psychology. Once you understand how women emotionally respond to distance, you'll see why silence, when used right, is louder than any words you could ever say. 1. She doesn't miss you right away, but she will. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. When you first go no contact, she's not sitting there crying or missing you like crazy. In fact, at first, she feels relief. Especially if the relationship had tension or emotional ups and downs, she'll tell herself, finally, some space. She convinces herself she's fine, that she's in control. That's how most women protect their ego, by pretending they're unaffected. But here's what happens next. That silence starts to echo. At first it feels peaceful, then it becomes confusing. Then it turns uncomfortable. You see, women are used to men reacting, texting, checking in, posting things just to get noticed. When that pattern stops, she notices. She might not reach out immediately, but she starts wondering why. It's not that she suddenly misses you. It's that she can't read you anymore. And for a woman, not being able to read a man is deeply unsettling. Women thrive on emotional feedback. It's how we measure connection and power. When she doesn't get that feedback from you anymore, she starts overthinking. Is he over me? Has he moved on? Did he meet someone else? Those thoughts grow quietly in her mind, and over time, they turn into curiosity, then into insecurity. And that's where the shift begins. Once her mind starts to question what you're doing, her emotions start to fight her logic. She might tell herself, I'm not going to reach out first, but she'll still check your social media, stalk your online status, or casually ask mutual friends about you. That's her trying to reconnect without losing pride. This is why it's so important that you don't break no contact too early. Because in those first few weeks, she's testing her own feelings more than she's testing you. If you reach out, you interrupt that process. You remind her that you're still there, and she doesn't have to wonder anymore. But if you stay silent, her curiosity grows into an emotional need to know what's happening. And that's when she starts chasing. 2. How your absence starts working in her mind. When you go no contact, you're not just disappearing from her phone, you're disappearing from her emotional rhythm. Whether she admits it or not, every woman builds a certain pattern around a man she's been connected to. She gets used to his messages, his energy, his attention. She knows when he usually calls, when he reacts, how he responds. It becomes part of her emotional routine. And when that stops, her mind starts working overtime to fill the silence. At first, she'll try to rationalize it. He's just busy. He'll come around. He's doing this to get a reaction. These are all ways she tries to stay in control of the story. Because to admit that you might actually be done, that you've detached, creates an emotional discomfort she doesn't want to face. Here's the thing. Women don't chase men out of logic. We chase when emotions take the wheel. And your absence slowly builds those emotions, not through words, but through uncertainty. You've removed predictability, and that's powerful. Predictable men are easy to forget. Mysterious men linger in our minds. When we can't read you, we think about you more. As days turn into weeks, she starts noticing that emotional gap more intensely. Every moment she expects to hear from you but doesn't, she feels it. Every time she sees something that reminds her of you, it lands harder. The silence starts whispering things she can't ignore. Did I lose him? Does he not care anymore? That's the seed of pursuit right there. Doubt mixed with emotion. If you've ever wondered why a woman who seemed cold suddenly shows up weeks later acting emotional, this is why. It's not random. It's the result of the emotional pressure your absence creates. When she realizes she can't access your energy anymore, your attention, your validation, your time, she feels that loss more than she expected. 3. The moment she realizes you're not waiting anymore. This is the moment that flips everything. The point where she finally realizes you're not sitting around waiting for her. It's subtle at first, but trust me, she feels it. Women can sense emotional detachment better than they can spot lies. The second your energy shifts from "I hope she comes back" to "I'm okay if she doesn't," something changes in the dynamic. She feels that shift, and it unsettles her. You see, most women expect a man to linger emotionally. Even after a breakup, she assumes you'll still check her stories, text her eventually, or show signs that you're still affected. It gives her a quiet sense of control. But when all of that disappears, when you stop watching, stop liking, stop reaching, and stop chasing, her internal power begins to slip. That's when the emotional confusion begins. At first, she'll tell herself you're just acting distant to make her chase. She'll test you, maybe post something provocative or try to get a reaction. But when she gets nothing back, that's when the realization hits. He's not waiting anymore. That single realization is what flips attraction on its head. Because the moment she believes you've truly accepted the loss, that you're no longer emotionally dependent on her response, you become unpredictable again. And unpredictability fuels attraction. Here's what's happening inside her mind at that point. She's comparing who you were before with who you are now. Before, she could sense your emotional attachment, the energy of a man who still needed closure, still wanted validation. Now, she senses freedom. She sees you moving forward, maybe improving yourself, living differently. That triggers 2 emotional reactions in her: respect and curiosity. Respect because you're not begging or chasing like most men would. Curiosity because she can't figure out why she lost her grip on you. That confusion makes her revisit everything: the relationship, her behavior, even her own decisions. And that's what creates emotional tension. She starts thinking, maybe I misjudged him. Maybe he really was the one who cared more. Maybe I pushed too hard. Those thoughts are exactly what make her want to reach out. Not love, not guilt, but the realization that she's lost emotional control over someone she once influenced easily. 4. Why emotional control makes you irresistible. If there's one thing that separates men who make women chase from those who get forgotten, it's emotional control. When you can stay grounded, not reactive, not needy, not emotionally swayed by what she does or doesn't do. You become the kind of man women quietly respect and desire. Because here's the truth. Women are drawn to stability, not chaos, and emotional control is the clearest form of stability there is. When a man doesn't lose himself in a woman's behavior, he stands out. Most men collapse under female emotion. They beg, argue, or over-explain. They try to convince her to see their value instead of letting her feel it. And that's where everything goes wrong. Attraction doesn't grow from explanation. It grows from energy. If your energy says, "I'm fine either way," that alone makes you more magnetic. A woman can sense when a man's emotions control him. She feels his desperation, his fear of loss, his hope that she'll change her mind. That kind of emotional exposure doesn't inspire attraction. It drains it. But when she feels that you're steady, calm, collected, and focused on yourself, it creates polarity. Because she's emotional by nature, you become the grounded presence she subconsciously wants to be around. Women test men emotionally not because they're cruel, but because they want to feel that stability. It's how we measure strength. When you don't bite the bait, when you don't react to her hot and cold behavior, you're showing her something rare. A man who's in control of himself. That's incredibly attractive because emotional control equals safety, and safety equals desire. Here's something most men never realize. The moment you stop chasing emotional validation from a woman, she starts chasing it from you. That's the shift. When she can no longer predict your response, she starts wanting it more. When she can't trigger your emotions easily, she becomes more intrigued by you. You flipped the power dynamic without saying a word, and this has nothing to do with pretending not to care. Pretending is still emotional dependence. It's still about her. True control comes from internal peace, from knowing your worth doesn't change whether she stays or walks away. You're not withholding emotion to manipulate her. You're simply no longer allowing your emotions to be controlled by her reactions. 5. When her ego starts fighting her feelings. This is the part of no contact that most men never see clearly. The emotional war that happens inside a woman's mind. When she starts missing you, her ego doesn't just step aside and let her act on it. It fights back. That's why you'll often see mixed signals, cold behavior followed by warmth, or random half-hearted texts that don't go anywhere. What you're witnessing isn't confusion. It's her ego, resisting her feelings. At first, she'll try to convince herself she's fine. She'll tell her friends she's over you. She might even start dating someone new, not because she's ready, but because she's trying to prove something, to herself and to you. But that doesn't erase emotion. It only buries it. And the more she suppresses what she feels, the more those emotions come back stronger when she realizes you're not reacting to her anymore. Picture this. She's scrolling through her phone late at night, looking at old messages she swore she deleted. She's thinking about how easy things used to feel when she had your attention. But instead of texting you, her ego steps in. No, don't. He's probably waiting for you to break first. That internal tug of war keeps her stuck between pride and longing, and this is where your silence becomes so powerful. Because when you stay silent, you're not giving her ego anything to push against. If you chase, argue, or try to prove you've changed, she gets to feel superior, in control. But when you say nothing, her ego has no opponent. Eventually, her feelings start to win that fight. It's almost unfair how predictable it is. The same woman who acted distant starts trying to reappear subtly, liking your posts, replying to stories, asking casual questions through mutual friends. Those aren't random moves. They're her ego trying to reconnect without surrendering fully. She wants to test if the door is still open before walking through it. Here's the key. Don't open it too wide. If she senses that you're too eager, her ego gets fed again. But if she feels that your energy is calm, detached and respectful, like you're genuinely at peace whether she comes back or not, her ego loses ground. That's when she starts chasing you. Not just because she misses you, but because you've become a man she can't emotionally control anymore. 6. How to stay silent without losing confidence. This is where most men fail during no contact. They start strong, but as time goes on, the silence starts to mess with their mind. They begin to question themselves. What if she's moved on? What if she never reaches out? What if I'm just wasting my time? And slowly, that self-doubt eats away at their confidence. But here's what you need to understand. Silence isn't a waiting game. It's a self-control game. You're not staying silent to make her react. You're staying silent to get your power back. There's a difference. When you treat no contact like a trick to make her miss you, you're still emotionally tied to her behavior. But when you use it as a boundary, as a way to reclaim your peace and rebuild your energy, it becomes powerful. It stops being about her and starts being about you. Confidence in no contact comes from focus. You can't just sit around counting the days until she reaches out. That keeps you emotionally weak. The only way to stay grounded is to redirect your attention into your goals, your body, your growth, your peace. Because when your life starts moving forward, you stop obsessing about whether she's watching. And trust me, she'll notice that. A woman can sense when your silence comes from insecurity versus when it comes from peace. Insecurity feels forced. You disappear, but still check her stories, still drop hints online, still react emotionally. Peace feels effortless. You're quiet, but you're living. That's what makes silence so attractive. It's not the absence of words, it's the presence of strength. If you want to hold your silence confidently, remind yourself of this truth. She's supposed to feel your absence. That's the whole point. Don't ruin it by trying to manage her reaction. Women don't chase men who need reassurance. They chase men who give them emotional contrast. The feeling that they're no longer the center of your world. Every time you feel the urge to break silence, stop and ask yourself, would saying this make me look stronger or weaker? If it's coming from fear, loneliness, or a need for closure, don't do it. Closure isn't something she gives you. It's something you decide. 7. Turning the tables. Make her chase you naturally. At this point, everything you've done, your silence, your detachment, your emotional control, has changed the entire dynamic. But now comes the most important part. Staying in that position of strength even when she starts coming back. Because yes, she probably will reach out. Maybe casually at first, maybe indirectly, or maybe with something emotional like, I've been thinking about you. But this time, how you respond will decide everything. You see, the goal isn't just to make her chase. The real power is in staying the man she feels she has to chase. Because once a woman realizes you're not easily accessible anymore, her attraction starts to rebuild. She wants to feel your attention again. But this time, she knows she has to earn it. That's where your discipline matters most. When she comes back, don't swing between two extremes. Don't be cold and distant. But don't go back to being overly available either. Stay calm. Be warm but reserved. Confident, but not desperate. When you act like a man who's already complete, she feels it instantly. It tells her, he doesn't need me, but he's open to me if I bring peace. And that balance is irresistible to women. If she tests you, and she will, stay centered. She might say things to get an emotional reaction, or act unsure to see if you'll chase again. That's when most men lose their ground and fall right back into old patterns. But if you remain composed, she'll feel something deeper, safety, attraction, and respect all at once. Because emotional strength is rare in men. When you have it, you become unforgettable. Making her chase you naturally doesn't come from manipulation, it comes from consistency. When your silence was calm, your energy steady, and your words scarce but confident, she associates you with strength. And strength, real, quiet, masculine strength, is what pulls women in every time. Here's the thing. A woman's attraction isn't built on what you say, it's built on how you make her feel. If she feels like she has to chase your attention now, if she feels uncertain about your emotional availability, if she senses that you're no longer seeking her validation, her desire naturally rises. Because every woman secretly wants to win the attention of a man who doesn't give it easily. At the end of the day, understanding female psychology isn't about trying to manipulate women. It's about mastering your emotions. The truth is, the moment you become emotionally dependent on a woman's approval or attention, you hand over your power. And once she senses that imbalance, attraction fades. But when you learn to control your emotions, stay calm under pressure, and walk away when necessary, everything changes. Women don't crave perfection. They crave strength. They want a man who's confident enough to stand on his own, who doesn't chase validation, and who can lead himself regardless of how she feels in the moment. That kind of emotional control draws her in, even if she doesn't fully understand why. So remember this, the man who knows his worth never begs to be seen. He doesn't fight for attention. He creates it through his energy. He doesn't chase love. He attracts it through his presence. And when he walks away, it's never from weakness. It's from knowing he deserves more than confusion, disrespect, or half-effort. That's the real power. Not being cold, but being calm. Not being detached from emotion, but being in control of it. Once you master that balance, women will always feel your value, even in your absence. That's when she'll miss you the most. Not because you tried to make her, but because your silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say.